Hello and welcome to a victory episode of the GW Men's Basketball Podcast. GW Basketball Insiders after a GW 88-81 win over Fordham. Big performance from Trey Autry. I've got Abe Rothstein, Scott Greeny with us. Why don't we just start off with thoughts?
Yeah, they were on the call. They were on the WRGW radio call for the game, so we thought they would be the perfect guests to bring in to help us break this down.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better or more exciting game, though. I mean, of course, Fordham coming in as the 15 seed, very scrappy team. Keith Urgo has, you can say whatever you want about him. He has them playing hard. I mean, Jackie Johnson, with the Fordham record, 35 points in an A10 tournament. The Fordham record is, of course, in the tournament, but 35 points. He's untouchable. And in a game, it feels like that GW has lost time and time after again when, they had the lead. You look at LaSalle, the LaSalle game, at Glazer Arena. I felt like they had the lead. They couldn't put them away. And, they lost it. And GW had the lead. They couldn't put Fordham away. But, when they went down, Trey Autry was there, saved the day, back-to-back-to-back of the biggest threes of his career.
Yeah, I mean, this performance from Trey Autry was, generational. Those 9 points staved off. Fordham was on a 10-0 run. They were in, a 14-1 run at that point. They were up 74-72 after GW had a 13-point lead, under 10 minutes left to go in the second half. This was a disaster before Trey Autry stepped in. If Trey Autry doesn't do what he does, we're having a very different conversation right now. And I don't think it can be overstated just how truly Trey Autry put the team on his back and saved the day, gave GW their first A10 tournament win since 2021, their first quarterfinal appearance since 2019, and Chris Caputo's first A10 tournament win as a head coach and first conference tournament win as a head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were a lot of there's kind of a sort of a discourse among some A10 basketball media people. A lot of the people that were a lot of the coaches that were brought into the A10 that same year as Chris Caputo have struggled to get it done. Archie Miller, Frank Martin, Drew Valentine. I don't believe has won an A10 tournament game.
Loyola Chicago's had a lot of regular season success, but first year, they weren't great. Last year they had that brutal loss to St. Bonaventure. Yeah, it's tough to get these wins. Chris Caputo mentioned that in the post-game press conference. He didn't feel like he was necessarily missing that just because of how tough and close these games have been. But boy, what a win today.
Yeah, I mean, we have to talk about Jackie Johnson. He dragged that Fordham team kicking and screaming to a, almost to a win. And there's basically nothing GW could do to stop him. Caputo talked about it in the brief chat that David and I just had with him, where he said he was running around traps. He was just completely unstoppable. So there was a moment where I thought he's gonna will his team to a victory here.
Scott, what was your take on Johnson's performance, and then how GW sort of did manage to stop him at the end when it really mattered?
Yeah, as we were talking just minutes before we were going live, we thought that Jacoy Hutchinson really did a good job, especially in those last few minutes, guarding Jackie Johnson, keeping him without a made basket down the stretch there. And Jacoy Hutchinson really took over on the offensive end, really attacking the rim with his right hand, 6 of 8 from the free throw line, a lot of those coming in the late minutes there. But definitely Fordham, Keith Urgo was talking in the press conference last night against Rhode Island, talking about GW as one of the most connected teams in the conference. Fordham looked pretty connected for much of that second half there when they were able to trim that Fordham lead and then take the lead there. But GW, they just continue to have these all-around strong team performances. You see it all around the stat sheet, really, from a bunch of different guys, too. Fortunately, able to hold on there despite some foul trouble from the GW stars.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the foul trouble. Rafael Castro and Sean Hansen had a little bit of foul trouble. Kind of didn't slow Rafael Castro down. Still had 17 points. I know, David, you highlighted a clip during the game of, you said it was he gambled on a steal sort of towards half court.
He was on the perimeter. He was defending his man, sort of floated up to the perimeter a bit, gambled on a steal, poked a loose ball pretty much towards the basket that GW was scoring on, ran up, went coast to coast. I've never seen a center at really any level sort of make a play like that on the perimeter, move like that down. he just continues to impress me. And the more I watch him, the more I realize how special he is, because like, yes, he's scoring. Today I have this in front of me right now. 17 points, 8 rebounds. Like, that's a great stat line. But, even if he wasn't scoring like he is, rebounding the way he's such an impact. He makes such an impact on the defensive end. GW hasn't had a two-way player like this since, I think, Yuta Watanabe. And it's like, he's really, elevated this team and raised this team's ceiling to a level I don't think a lot of people thought they would be at the start of the year.
And you mentioned 17 and 8. I also think he also had 4 assists. I mean, he's a really good passer for someone, who's his size. Easily one of the best passers we've seen from big man at GW recently, and that opens up a lot. I mean, you saw, especially against the zone, they get it inside, it collapses everything. He's able to kick out, find Trey Autry for a corner 3. And also, there's a certain amount of times he's able to find Darren Buchanan, who I think one of the other big storylines is
I was about to bring
this
this up.
version of Darren Buchanan since before he got hurt. And I think his intensity and his aggressiveness tonight opened up so much for GW. Him being able to get to the basket, get to the line. He looked like that same player that we've been missing. And I feel like, just imagine, if he was, playing at this level, for the last 2 months, I feel like this could have been, coming into the tournament, a very different conversation.
Yeah.
So, Abe and Scott, I know you guys are around the team a bit more than me and Liam are. So, like, kind of piggybacking off that Buchanan point, do you have any, like, what do you think, like, what do you think, like, flip the switch? Do you think this was, like, a coaching decision, like, to sort of purposely getting him involved more? Do you think this is more of a mindset thing for him? Maybe just the ankles feeling better? Like, what do you guys think? Scott, go first, and I want to hear Abe's point. What do you think sort of led to this, I don't want to say vintage because he's a redshirt sophomore, but Buchanan looking like he did at the beginning of this year pre-injury and last year?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think it just speaks to Darren Buchanan Jr. He kind of lives for these big performances when the lights are the brightest. He had 28 points, season high, against American. And then, we really haven't seen him play that much. But I think also the game context really helped him a lot, especially with Hansen and Castro and some foul trouble. But really just looking at the stat sheet, 3 key offensive rebounds, especially in those last few minutes there, really helped GW. So it seems like, I think he really loves it when the lights are bright. As Coach Caputo mentioned in the press conference, great crowd in Capital One Arena for the GW crowd on a Thursday night, 5 p.m. Now you've got it tomorrow as well against George Mason, 5 p.m. on a Friday night. That place is going to be rocking. We'll be here for you. But I think Darren Buchanan Jr., 23 minutes, 14.7 rebounds. He had a very strong performance, 5 of 6 from the field last week against Fordham. It seems like he's sort of kind of trying to fit in this role off the bench here. And it seems like you can really tell he's really looking to get this team going again.
Yeah, and I think it's a mix of a few things. I think initially, of course, being the star player, being a guy who thought he was going to be A10 first team coming into the season, preseason, was second team, a guy who's been the guy, someone who's been the star of the team, getting hurt and coming back. It's a big adjustment to a new role, being asked, going in, you're the guy, and then being asked, all right, we need you to come off the bench. We need you to kind of change the style. We're now going to play through Rafael Castro. We're going to play through Trey Autry. We're going to play through Christian Jones. And I feel like it was definitely a little bit of a mix of whether or not, his ankle was better. And I feel like, once it has, he's kind of been able to find his game. But I feel like, the lights were big. He's at Capital One Arena, hometown guy in DC. This is,
he has a lot of friends and family here. We know that for a fact.
This is the Mecca in DC. This is the place you want to play. If you're a kid, you're like, want to see, going to Wizards games or whatever. He was here, with John Wall, Bradley Beal, they were making runs in the playoffs. So, the bright lights are, I think, the biggest time, and I think the best time for Darren Buchanan.
Yeah, I mean, next up, as we mentioned, is George Mason. Same time tomorrow, 5 p.m. Against, at Capital One Arena. There'll be I imagine a pretty sizable George Mason contingent in the crowd. GW has been kind of tantalizingly close to beating the Patriots these last 2 times they've played this season. And I do think there was a comment that I heard from Darren Buchanan at the end of the game that is maybe not suitable for work, that indicated to me that they really want to play George Mason.
Hey, Liam, we're not on any sort of FAA regulations here on this live stream.
No,
so
You're not on WRGW.
I guess that's true. It was maybe I said that because I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something like we're ready to put the belt to George Mason's ass or something like that.
I love it.
He yelled this before the game was over. He very much yelled this with about 40 seconds left, so there's still a while to go. But what do we think? Kind of what's our outlook on this game tomorrow?
All right, let's go. All of us. 1, 2, 3, 4. Quick, 10 seconds. What we're looking for tomorrow. Abe, you start.
Early offensive production. George Mason shut us down in the first half last time. Want to see some good offense. Need some 3-point shooting and free throw makes.
Liam.
I think 3-pointers are big. Obviously, want to get Rafael Castro going, and if you can keep Darren Buchanan kind of playing the way that he was today, then that would be big.
Scott?
I was just going to say, get that two-man game going with Rafael Castro and Darren Buchanan Jr. Really, they did well in that first matchup against Mason. And then free throws in the late moments there. Try to keep it together for GW.
I don't want to pile on with Castro, but the thing I'm looking for is Castro to show why he should have been first team over George Mason center Jalen Haynes. But so I'm not going to say that, even though I just said that. I'm going to go with GW limiting one of George Mason's role players from having a crazy game. I think if they can do that, it'll be really difficult for George Mason to get enough offense to really get a win.
All right. Well, that's about all we got. We're going to be back tomorrow with a bunch of content. Make sure to follow us all on Twitter. Listen to GW Basketball Insiders. We'll have another episode tomorrow after the game. And thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.